title of my post today is Michael Jordan is not the GOAT. If you've been living under a rock or you just don't know, obviously, of course, Michael Jordan is the probably one of the most famous basketball players to ever play in the NBA, college, or any other on any other level. But I'm here to shed some light and some facts to everybody. Media, fans, casual watchers of the NBA. Michael Jordan is not the greatest of all time to play in the NBA. Okay? Now, of his era, maybe the greatest scorer, maybe one of the most determined, undeniable players that you just could not stop him when it was crunch time, maybe. Definitely the greatest player of his era. He denied lots of great players championships, like Charles Barkley, who was one of my favorite players growing up. He beat Magic Johnson in the finals, but let's keep it real. That Lakers team was not built to handle the Bulls. Okay? Celtics were already out of it. Lakers were already out of it. They just defeated and vanquished the Pistons, who had been their roadblock to the championship for the 2 previous years before getting to the finals. So let's look at some of my all-time favorite players. I was not ever a Celtics fan, but you have to respect what they did and winning. Although, if you want to put an asterisk on something, some people don't like it or don't really care to hear it. But the Celtics teams, way back when they were winning all those championships, they were loaded. And it was a smaller league. So obviously, if you have the best players on a team, you should win more than anybody else. So I don't know. I'm not trying to take anything away from Bill Russell, because Bill Russell was a beast. He could play ball. So his talent is undeniable. But for me, I don't know if those championships hold as much weight as the championships going forward, like in the 90s, in the early 80s perhaps, to me personally. A lot of people probably would disagree with me that have watched him play, historians of the game, but I don't know. I don't know if Bill Russell can win all those championships. Maybe he does, but we'll never know. But obviously, you have to consider him obviously one of the greatest because of his championships, his talent, what he meant to the team, rebounding a lot, scoring, orchestrating their defense. He was the captain. So, yes, Bill Russell is one of the greatest of all time to me. You got to put Wilt Chamberlain up in there. Only player in the league to ever average 50 points a game and 20 plus rebounds. He was phenomenal. I don't think we've ever seen anybody more talented, more athletically gifted than Wilt Chamberlain. He just had bad luck of being on the wrong teams versus, better teams. Then you have players like Dr. J, Julius Erving. These are some of the guys that I remember. Dr. J made it so that people wanted to watch a league that was basically going out of existence, which was the ABA. He was the ABA. And he came into the NBA, and we got to see him for a while, a little bit longer. But, Dr. J wasn't perfect. He didn't have a great jump shot, but he was super athletic. He could do things with the ball that a few other players could, but it was beautiful to watch Dr. J. He was one of my favorite players of all time, and a classy dude as well. What other great players can we think about? Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. Okay? First of all, to me, these two players, Magic Johnson in particular, get overlooked when you're talking about greatest of all time. Because without Magic Johnson and Larry Bird rivalry, there is no Michael Jordan. There is no Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, and all these future stars that we have now. Kevin Durant, Stephen Curry, Kyrie Irving, all these basketball wizards. They don't exist without Magic Johnson and Larry Bird revitalizing the league. Do your history. The league wasn't even on TV that much until we got Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, Celtics-Lakers rivalry, which today is the best rivalry ever that the league has ever seen. Nothing even comes close. I don't know if anything ever will, because those players, those teams knew how to get players on their team to win, whether it was drafting them or through free agency or through trades. Celtics and Lakers, they were stacked. Go through those teams. You had players like Larry Bird, Robert Parrish, who was highly underrated, Kevin McHale, Danny Ainge, Cedric Maxwell, who was that other? DJ, Dennis Johnson. These guys were mentally tough across the board. They didn't choke under the pressure the way a lot of these players in the NBA do. And you want to know why? It's because back then it truly was a man's league. We got babies, young boys coming into this league and inheriting a league that they did not earn. Okay? Very few players ever came into this league as a teenager, a young man just starting out, and won right away. Okay? Do your history. Okay? There's one player who came into the league and won a title after he won a title in the NCAAs. Not only did he come into the league and win a title, but he ended up becoming MVP and dropped one of the greatest performances ever in a finals game, and that's Magic Johnson. Okay? So to me, when we talk about GOAT, we overlook circumstances, because a lot of the media will tell you that Michael Jordan is the GOAT because he went 6-0. Okay? But what about those 7 years before? If Michael Jordan was so great as all these people want to say, why wasn't he able to will his teams to victory? Why didn't he score 100 points, 60, 70, 80 points to beat the Pistons, to beat the Celtics, so he could match up with the Lakers? Why? Why not? Because he wasn't that great. Okay? Michael Jordan had to learn how to win. He had to get the right players around him, because whether we want to agree or not, or admit it, basketball is a team sport. There is not one player that you can say can score all of our points and we're going to win the game. It doesn't happen. It's never happened that way. That doesn't exist. It's a fantasy. It's made up. Okay? Magic Johnson came into this game and he injected a level of enthusiasm that revitalized Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's career, made him want to play. Okay, that's greatness. What did Michael Jordan do? How did he lead his teams? By punching them in the face, by holding them to a standard that only he could reach. Sure, you say, I'm not gonna ask you to do something that I can't do. No, but you're asking people to do something they can't do. instead of elevating them by your play. That's why, to me, whether people want to see it as so and don't want to admit it, that's okay. But to me, Michael Jordan is not even close to being as great a player as Magic Johnson. Because Magic Johnson won 5 titles with stiffer competition than Jordan had. Once Jordan overcame the Pistons, he had no competition. He did not have to go against stacked teams the way Magic did, the way Bird did, okay, the way the Pistons did. These guys were facing amazing, all-time great players. And it wasn't just 1 or 2. It was 3, 4, 5, 6 players that could be all-stars and great players on those teams that were battling. Look at the games. Look at the Celtics and the Lakers. Those were amazing games. Who did Michael Jordan have to face that was mentally as tough as he was when he was at the prime of his career? Who can you say that matched Jordan's level of confidence in himself? He didn't have that guy. Okay, because Jordan wasn't that great. If he was that great, he would have pushed his way into battling and beating the Celtics. Pushed his way into the finals to meet Magic Johnson and the Lakers, his Los Angeles Lakers, at the height of their career. So even though he beat the Lakers, that Lakers team wasn't the team that you could say, wow, Michael Jordan beat a Lakers team that had Kareem, James Worthy, Magic Johnson, Byron Scott, Michael Cooper, Michael Thompson, AC Green at the top of their game. A lot of people don't want to notice that. They don't want to talk about that. Yes, Michael Jordan was amazing. Whenever I watch his games, I would think, wow, this guy's just on another level. Athletically gifted, strong-minded mentally, work ethic out the roof, right? He was an amazing player. But sadly, to me, his legacy has an asterisk for me because he didn't face the level of competition. He didn't beat the greatest players of his era before his era, right? He didn't beat Larry Bird. He didn't beat Magic Johnson at the height of his career. And that's not his fault. But I'm just saying, Magic and Bird, they're the reason we have an NBA today. Magic Johnson and Larry Bird's rivalry revitalized the league. There are people that were saying that at the height of his career that Larry Bird was better than Magic, but go back and do the research. Watch the tapes. Larry Bird admitted that Magic Johnson was better than him. Larry Bird said he's the greatest I've ever seen. Because Larry Bird was no punk. Larry Bird was a baller. Larry Bird lost 3 out of 2, 3 out of 5 in the finals to Magic, and he gave credit where credit's due. I got so much respect for Larry Bird and the Celtics, even though I hate the Celtics, but I got so much respect for those Celtics because they played together, they worked hard, and man, those teams were scary. Robert Parrish, Like, you wouldn't want to be caught in a dark alley with that dude. The longevity of Robert Parrish too. 20 years. Man, I respect, admire, and marvel at the things that Michael Jordan could do on a basketball court. He was graceful. It was like watching an artist on the court. He was doing things stylistically that we had never really seen before. Just that athleticism, that artistry, that's beautiful. So if you're talking about an icon of the game, yeah, you have to put him up there. Michael Jordan definitely is one of the greatest of all time. You know? But let's look at it realistically and be honest. If he was the GOAT, he would have won from the beginning. He would have won his first year in the NBA. Right? But that's why the game is a team game. He did not have great players. Okay? Once he got a great coach and a couple of great players to join him, then it was off, right? It was like there was no stopping him. He got stronger, mentally more tough, physically more tough. He earned all his other accolades. But let's not forget, for 7 long years, he was not winning a championship. That's the flip side, where people want to just push LeBron past everybody else to say he's either number 1 or number 2 all time. That's ridiculous. Come on, man. Stats don't always tell everything, okay? Because there are players that, had they wanted to, had teams been geared and set up for them to win, we wouldn't be talking about things the same way, okay? Now, what other player came into the league and won at an early age? Okay, let's look, do your history. And I'm sure there's people out there that can do this. I want someone to go and compile the most successful players in the NBA within their first 3, 4, say the first 6 years, first 6, 7 years of their NBA tenure. Who are the most successful players? Okay, Michael wouldn't be in that list. Okay, Magic Johnson would be. Kobe Bryant would be. Okay, but then you got other players in there that, like a Dwayne Wade, that would be, but unfairly, because I'm gonna tell you what. Go back and watch the series versus the Dallas Mavericks when Shaq rode Dwayne's stardom to his 4th title. Okay, Shaq did his job and everything, but it was basically the league saying to Dwayne Wade, here you go, lead us into the future. Which was a big mistake, by the way, because they wanted to crown Dwayne Wade as being the next NBA darling. But that was unfair. Then that was unwarranted. That was not earned. Okay, but if you go through that series, and I'm not a Dallas Mavericks fan, I can't stand the Mavericks. But honestly, we're looking at that series with an objective point of view, I feel like Dallas Mavericks got robbed because they were in those games. But D Wade got so many phantom calls, so many foul calls. And it's understandable, because you know what? The league has always been favoritism toward the superstars of the league. They always got a phantom call here and there. You know, they always got the benefit of the doubt. You can go back to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, you know, Michael Jordan. Like all these players would get phantom calls that if it looked like they might have got fouled, the refs would blow the whistle. And that's always been that way. But at least they were making a play to try to win a game, shoot a shot, would throw himself to the ground, acting like he got fouled. Okay. So I want people to go back, and really look at all of this talk about who's the greatest of all time and realize that doesn't exist. There is no one greatest of all time player, because it's all hearsay. It's all an opinion. And sure, we're entitled to our opinion, but let's just talk about facts. If you can talk about factually, it's impossible for there to be only one greatest of all time player. Factually, it doesn't add up, because Michael Jordan doesn't have the most points ever in the NBA. That's Kareem. Michael Jordan doesn't have the most rebounds ever in games. Heck, Dennis Rodman has a lot more than him. LeBron James, who hasn't even finished playing, has more than him. Okay, Kobe Bryant is right up there in rebounds with him. I'm not sure exactly where they match up. What Michael Jordan is noticed for as being greatest is, to me, is he's probably the most artistic, stylistic, and probably the most beautiful player to watch the game. He elevated the game to another level. And I really think that people don't give credit where credit's due to Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant won one less title. But in reality, if you want to look at things realistically, he should have won more. Okay? To me, he has 2 rings that were stolen from him. Okay, by the league. And Laker fans, like, ask a guy like Michael Thompson who knows the league. Yes, he's a Laker faithful, but I believe Michael Thompson is one of those guys that he's honest and objective enough to say, hey man, if you got your butt kicked, you got your butt kicked. And you lost. But go back and look at the series between the Pistons and the Lakers, where Chauncey Billups, Rasheed Wallace, Ben Wallace, here are all these cast-offs, right? Rip Hamilton, he was having a great season. Eldon Campbell's another cast-off. Lindsey Hunter came back to the Pistons after he had gone and played with the Lakers and other teams. So you're going to tell me that all these cast-offs were just going to synergize and beat a team that had Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant? Now, granted, that Lakers team was not complete. You had players on that team that were hurt, that I believe would have made a difference. Karl Malone was hurt. Horace Grant was hurt. And I think Horace Grant, probably to me, more than anybody on that team being hurt, is what hurt that Lakers team, because Horace Grant in previous years defended the power forwards of the West, like Tim Duncan, like Rasheed Wallace. It was his defense that made it easy for them to play more freely on the offensive end. Horace Grant never gets the credit that he truly deserves from those Bulls teams. He was an amazing defender. Without Horace Grant, without Scottie Pippen, without the other parts, Michael Jordan doesn't win not one single title. But if you look at those series where people try to say that, talking now back to the Lakers, right? People were saying that Shaq was the man on that team. Well, yeah, you're dumb if you don't give the ball to Shaq. He's the biggest dude on the court. He scores 40, 45 points for you, gets 12, 15 rebounds, 2, 3 blocks. It's dumb not to give him the ball. But for people to say that Shaq carried Kobe is even more dumb. Because just do the statistics. Kobe Bryant, as a young man in this league, in his early 20s, was doing something that Michael Jordan wasn't doing. He was playing well into the postseason and winning championships. The one thing that I have a problem with, as far as when it comes to Kobe, where I think he made a mistake, was to thinking that he needed to win titles without Shaq so that his career would be validated. I think he should have never played into that. I think that's the problem with Shaq and Kobe, why the rift, why they separated, was because neither one of them was smarter than the media. See, the media concocted this whole thing about them having beef, about, well, is it Shaq's team? Is it Kobe's team? Who's better? Shaq's better, Kobe's better. They both made a mistake about playing into that he said, she said, because you never heard Bird complaining about having McHale and Parrish and DJ, Maxwell. You never heard that. You never heard Magic Johnson saying, well, I want to prove that I can win a title without Kareem, so I'm going to get Kareem kicked off the team. You never heard Kareem complaining about having Magic Johnson, James Worthy, Byron Scott, Michael Cooper, Michael Thompson, AC Green. You never heard these guys complaining about that. But the media orchestrated it so that the Lakers would have to basically choose sides. Well, who are we going to stick with? We're going to stick with our dominant force, which is Shaq, or we're going to go with the younger, more athletic player who can do more on the court for us, which was Kobe. And obviously they went with the younger guy, and they won 2 more titles for it, and Shaq got carried to 1 more title. So the Lakers made the right choice. Shaq's the one that made the wrong choice. He admitted that he didn't get into shape because he knew he had Kobe, who was in crazy shape and working harder than anybody. So that says it all right there. I wish Kobe would have talked to Magic Johnson or somebody would dispel that notion to Kobe that you need to win titles without Shaq so that your career is validated. But oddly enough, I know people would say this is crazy, but I think that if Kobe and Pau Gasol, with the right pieces around them, would have hooked up together, they would have won more titles together. Only because of the dynamic of Shaq and Pau, Kobe and Pau having more of a synergy and a respect and a love for each other's game. They complemented each other much better than Kobe and Shaq did. Because Kobe and Shaq were 2 alpha males going at it. I know that's crazy to say, but I do think that. LeBron is an amazing player. But unfortunately for him, I think because the game changed, because it sped up so fast, and because he was given the opportunity to lead his team from day one, okay? Kobe was not given that opportunity. So Kobe made mistakes early on, you know, and he was reined in by his coach at that time. They didn't want him to be successful right away because they didn't need him to be successful right away. But I think Derek Fisher, teammate of Kobe Bryant's, once said, you know, I seen this guy play, and if the offense would have been tailor-made for him, he could have easily scored around 40 points a game, and I believe that. I just think Kobe never got that opportunity, obviously, early on because he played alongside Shaq. But if Shaq would have been more receptive the way David Robinson was of Tim Duncan, I think they definitely would have won more titles together. But the Lakers management made some dumb moves though back in that day. Shortly after losing to Detroit, they blew up the team. Instead of retooling that team around Shaq and Kobe, sitting them down and saying, look, this is not, we shouldn't have lost that series to Detroit. There is no way we should have lost that series to Detroit, even with the players that we were hurt, because Kobe Bryant was not allowed to be the superstar that he really already was. You had a rookie like Tayshaun Prince being allowed to rough him up, to play him physical in a way that negated his greatness. Kobe Bryant should have been allowed to play and show who he really was in that series, and he wasn't. He was not given that opportunity because for whatever reason the refs did not blow the whistle the way they needed to. Had they blown the whistle for Kobe the way they did for Wade, Lakers would have had that title too. Now fast forward to 2008 when the Lakers played against the Celtics. That was another missed opportunity for Kobe. But to Kobe's credit, he never complained about it. He never said the refs were not giving us the fouls. But you go back, anybody can go back and look at that series and look at the blatant missed calls on the Lakers. The blatant calls that weren't fouls that were given to the Celtics. Paul Pierce throwing himself constantly on the floor, trying to get a foul call, constantly looking for the foul instead of trying to play to score and make a play. He was looking to get fouled. He was looking to get bailed out by the refs. And since when does the league give 3 players who couldn't win on their own so much respect to say, oh, this is a great team? Kevin Garnett never got out of the first round in the West. Paul Pierce never, as a number 1, took his team to great heights in Boston. Ray Allen bounced around quite a bit before going to the Celtics. Never was the best player on his team, except maybe in Seattle. And that was only because they had all younger players. Okay? Paul Pierce was the best player on his team, but that's only because they didn't have anybody that was really worth talking about, except maybe Antoine Walker for a while. I think Antoine Walker might have been better than Paul Pierce when at the height of his career. Kevin Garnett was not immediately the best player on his team. He worked into that role. But he had a really good group of players on his team like Tom Gugliotta, Latrell Sprewell. Who else was really good on that team? Stephon Marbury, Terrell Brandon. So all these guys were never like clear cut, far and above, way better than their other teammates. You know, for a short stint, Paul Pierce, yeah. For a short stint, Kevin Garnett too, yes. But not from day one. Not from day one where they said, oh man, this is the guy that drives the engine. That wasn't Paul Pierce. That wasn't Ray Allen. That wasn't Kevin Garnett. I don't know if they were given the keys or the opportunity to. Probably not. But I don't think mentally that they were even prepared for that. So when they faced the Lakers in that 2008 series, 2008 NBA Finals, yes, I'm a big fan of the Lakers, die hard. But if you whoop us, you just beat us, you're better than us, I can admit it without any problems. If you could beat us without the refs making it easier on you, and you just flat out kick our butt, I can admit it, because that's the spirit of competition. One day, one series, you have the opportunity to be better. But I've played in games where the refs really can determine the outcome of a game. I mean, you may not think so if you've never played the game, but the referees can really control the spirit of a game. Because if you're going to the hole and you know you should be getting a foul call, it frustrates you. It really does frustrate you. And you're not allowed to play the game at the same level as the other team, because they know it as well. They know that the refs aren't giving you the foul calls, but they're giving them to them. So it gives them an unfair advantage. They can be aggressive. If the game is called equally, if the refs are letting you hack and foul them the way they're fouling you, they don't go to the bucket as with that same ferocity. You know, they have to kind of taper it back and go, okay, well, I got to shoot a jumper here, or I got to be more selective of when I drive, because if I don't, I'm probably going to get knocked on my butt. I'm not going to get the foul call, so I don't want to get hit, fall, because it takes a toll on your body getting hit that many times in a game. You tire out. But if you know you're going to get fouled and you're going to go to the free throw line, well, that's an advantage that the other team doesn't have. So for me, that series against the Pistons, I don't remember what year it was. It was 95, 94. And the 08 series against the Celtics. Those are two championships that the Lakers, realistically, I believe they could have won had the game been officiated fairly. So, with that being said, regardless of who your favorite player or who your greatest of all time player is, I say Michael Jordan is not the GOAT, but he is one of the greatest to ever play the game. He has to be considered in the top 5, definitely. And I don't know if I could keep Kobe out of that top 5, because he is the closest thing to Michael Jordan that we've ever seen. And I personally believe he had overcome a lot more than any of these other superstars that we talk about. Kobe was not received very well into the league. There were so many haters, so many people that wanted him to fail. You know, this skinny 17-year-old kid, you know, press conference and everything saying he's going to take his talents to the NBA. That was not well received. And the media never accepted Kobe and never truly appreciated his greatness, his work ethic, which I think rivals that of any NBA player of all time. I think if we're talking about who is the hardest working, most maniacal, psychotically driven, all in, fully immersed into his profession in the NBA, I don't think it's even close. I don't think anybody can rival Kobe Bryant. Not MJ, not anybody. I don't think so. You know, but you know, I think the stories are out there that would prove my point. But as far as artistry on the basketball court, Michael Jordan was a spectacle to watch. He was amazing. Every time I would watch his highlights, I would be amazed. Like, I would look at my friends and be like, I would just snicker like, did he just do that? Like, really? Like, wow. Amazing. Amazing player. But not the greatest of all time. Come on, man. Come on. Magic Johnson was my favorite player of all time. Most recently, Kobe Bryant surpassed him as being my favorite player of all time, solely because of how hard he had to work to get it. He was never received with the same type of open arms. He was never promoted the same way Michael Jordan was promoted, and even younger players. Like, if you go back and you look at to the height of when Kobe Bryant was actually the best player in the league by far, the league was promoting other players like Allen Iverson, believe it or not. Even though he had the cornrows and was supposedly considered to be a little bit like of a rebel, they were promoting players like Allen Iverson, Tracy McGrady, Vince Carter, other players like Dwayne Wade. So here you had a guy that could carry the torch already in Kobe Bryant. By his play on the court, he was doing that. His play on the court is what set him apart, is what made him revered by his peers. But the media didn't want to give him that mantle. The media didn't want to say Kobe Bryant is the best player on earth. And I think that's why it matters more. That's why for me Kobe Bryant is on another level, because he had to go through the media scrutiny. The media didn't want him to be considered the greatest player of all time. You see so many haters in that day, nowadays, talking about why Kobe Bryant wasn't the best player in the NBA and he didn't do this, he didn't do that right. But his peers did. All his peers, when he was the great leader, they revered him. They gave him his just respects, his just due respects. But the league didn't. And I think that's a travesty. That's a sad thing. When you think about all the things that Kobe did in the league, statistically, and how fans from China, see, they didn't have Michael Jordan to watch. It was Kobe. And I just don't think the league ever truly promoted his brand. And that's why it means more. That's why his legacy is even that, to me, in my mind, his legacy, his greatness is parallel to Michael Jordan. I won't say it's greater than, but I would say it's parallel because he had to go through more media scrutiny as far as like he just wasn't given the opportunity to lead the league and to be the face of the league. He took it. Kobe didn't ask anybody if he was the greatest of his era. He just went out there and proved it. He took that mantle of being the face of the league. And there were other players who were being groomed. Okay, Tracy McGrady, you're going to be the next face of the league. Okay, Allen Iverson. Okay, Penny Hardaway. Okay, who else? Vince Carter. But did Vince Carter ever lead his team to an NBA title as the number one guy? Nope. Okay. Didn't do it. So, while, like I said, Michael Jordan is not the greatest of all time, he's easily one of the greatest. And much respect. Much love for what he did for the game. But to me, greater than Michael Jordan for what they did for the game of basketball is the whole Celtics-Lakers rivalry. And I do want to say also that we forget how great the Pistons were. The Detroit Pistons, not the ones that had Chauncey Billups and those teams, no. Rip Hamilton, no. I'm talking about Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, Bill Laimbeer, James Edward, Dennis Rodman, John Sally, Vinny the Microwave Johnson. Okay, those teams were great. Isaiah was remarkable. Hated those teams too, but those teams earned my respect. They deserve their place in history, and we need to start giving Isaiah Thomas and those Detroit Pistons bad boys their rightful due. Because as someone recently said in the media, Isaiah Thomas, good or bad, healthy or wise, young or whatever, but Isaiah Thomas, they beat the Celtics. The Pistons beat the Celtics. They beat the Lakers. And they beat the Bulls. Okay? And Isaiah and the Pistons, they got over the hump against the Celtics. And then they beat the Lakers. So well, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Y'all have a good one. Do your research. Have a great day.